Often referred to as velocity, having cards in your hand and drawing cards is one of the most powerful and necessary things that you can do in Magic the Gathering. In EDH, because of your commander, you essentially have an 8-card opening hand. With partner commanders, that becomes essentially 9 cards in your opening hand, and if we can find a companion to pair with those partner commanders, we're looking at a possible 10-card opening hand, and that's just immensely powerful. I want to talk about 3 companions that I think have a lot of viability in Commander, and the 5 sets of partner commanders that could be paired with them, and the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. Today we're going to talk about partner commanders and companions, leading to what's essentially 10-card opening hands, and some of the combinations that I think have some powerful possibility. But first, if you would, go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like the video. By the end of it, it really helps us out. Let me lay a little groundwork here. The goal with this brewing is to have partner commanders paired with companions so that we have what is essentially a 10-card opening hand. Big shout out to user NY's Green and White on Reddit. This was a post that I found on the MTG subreddit, and I knew I wanted to do some brewing and bring you a video about it. We've always had the possibility of partner commanders with companions, but because of Commander Legends bringing us a whole batch of new partner commanders, we've gone from 92 possible combinations to 541 possible combinations. That is enough, I think, that we can find some synergies within it and build some powerful decks. What I'm going to do is frame this through 3 different companions that I think have some viability and a couple of partner pairings that could go with those companions. Obviously, in this video, I've only got time to go over a few, so if there are any partner commanders and companions that you've combined together and I missed in this video, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you about them. Let's look at some companions. So first up, we're going to talk about Garuda, Doom of Depths. I love this companion. Right when it busted out, before the rules switch, and now you've got to pay 3 to move them from the companion zone into your hand, Garuda was pretty much all over the place. Everybody loved playing with Garuda. Now, obviously with the new partners that we've seen, the companion I think goes really well with Sakashima. Sakashima is going to come in as a copy of Garuda and give you more of those triggers so that we can get more creatures onto the battlefield. Obviously with a Garuda and Sakashima deck, you're going to want to use cards like Deadeye Navigator so that you can trigger those ETBs over and over again as much as possible and get those cards onto the battlefield, as well as Phyrexian Metamorph. More copies. You just want to kind of lean into this flashing, copying deck so that you can use Garuda to great effect and get a bunch of free creatures. Now, that's only one partner commander, so who would I combine this with? I think Tormod is a great initial pairing. Tormod is going to allow you to create 2/2 zombies whenever cards are leaving your graveyard, so we're going to get even more value off of Garuda's Enter the Battlefield of putting a creature card with an even CMC from among the cards onto the battlefield under your control. Looking at the synergies that gives us with Tormod, we have cards leaving our graveyard and we're creating 2/2 zombies. We're also going to use cards like Golgari Thug, that dredge ability on this. Not only is it going to allow us to put more cards from our graveyard on top of our library, triggering Sir Conrad, triggering Tormod, but when it dies, we're putting a creature card from graveyard on top of our library as well. Now, Sengir the Dark Baron is going to allow us a little more over the top. It's almost an alternate viable strategy to Garuda copied Sakashima and then just a bunch of free creatures onto the battlefield. Sengir is going to give us death triggers of putting 2 +1/+1 counters on Sengir, and if we can wipe an opponent with some big Garuda, Sakashima, Phyrexian Metamorph combination of getting a bunch of creatures onto the battlefield and swinging, whenever a player loses, we're going to gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began. So with Sengir, you're going to want to combine it with cards like Priest of Forgotten Gods. Tap it, sack 2 other creatures. That's 2 death triggers. Then any number of target players, each of your opponents, each lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature. That's 3 more death triggers that are just going to grow Sengir plus we get to draw a card for that. By the way, you're going to want to run Blood Artist in a deck like this. It's kind of an aristocrat style build, and I think it's got a lot of viability. So those are the first two trios that I wanted to talk about, Garuda being the companion for those. The next companion I want to talk about is Obosh. Obosh is probably my personal favorite companion. If a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. The deck building restriction here is that we're going to need odd CMC cards and land cards only in our entire commander deck. So it does pose a little bit of a deck building challenge, but when we combine it with a partner like Jessica, it's odd, it's going to be doing damage, it's going to be double damage with Obosh on the battlefield. I think Jessica is a natural, wonderful pairing with Obosh. That second ability, -X, deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets, or you're choosing one of your creatures and you're tripling the damage, then you're doubling it with Obosh. You're doing a lot of damage with just these two. So that's one of the commander partnership combined with Obosh as your companion. I've got two options to build with Jessica, the first of which is Vial Smasher the Fierce. Vial Smasher is a very powerful partner, been around for a while. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, it deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to an opponent chosen at random. Obosh is going to be doubling that. Jessica's going to be doing some damage on top of that. These three combined is just going to have a ton of damage output on your side of the battlefield. So with Vial Smasher, I really like combining it with cards that are going to be doing residual damage, sort of a, group slug, if you will, build. And that's why I think we could put things like Cataract Parasite. Small card, 1 CMC, 1/1 horror. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you can have it deal 1 damage to that player. That could really add up as long as the parasite is on the field. You can also run things like Zozu. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to that land's controller. So we're going to be constantly punishing everyone for everything that they do as much as is possible. We can also run cards like Bloodchief Ascension. You put a quest counter on it for an opponent losing 2 or more life this turn, and whenever a card's put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if this has 3 or more quest counters on it, you can have that player lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. So you can mitigate some of the damage that you're taking because of some of your effects and continue putting damage on the opponents. We can also run fun cards like Witch Hunt. It's a little out there, but for 5 mana, players can't gain life, so you're not having anyone undo all the hard work you're doing. At the upkeep, it's going to deal 4 damage to you, but at the beginning of your end step, target opponent chosen at random gains control of Witch Hunt. So in a multiplayer game, the chance that this is going to be doing 4 damage at the beginning of upkeep to our opponents is very high. This is just more residual damage that adds on top, and it's like this pain train that we're going to be running with Obosh, Jessica, and Vial Smasher, and then a bunch of group slug cards. Also, I'd be remiss not to run Sulfuric Vortex in a deck like this. This is a pet card of mine, and I don't think that I had ever featured it in a 3 ways to build EDH video or any of my EDH brewing videos like this one, so I wanted to mention it. Dealing 2 damage to that player at the beginning of each player's upkeep in aggregate is just going to be so huge. The other partner that I would combine with Jessica and Obosh is Falthus, strangely enough. Falthus on the surface doesn't look super powerful. 3 mana for a 2/2 partner. Commanders you control have Menace and Death Touch. So if Falthus is your commander, it's going to have Menace and Death Touch built right into it, and that's pretty good for a Voltron strategy, for a commander to come with those 2 keywords. If you combine it with things like Whisper Silk Cloak, which can't be blocked and has Shroud, Jessica's tripling damage from Falthus, Obosh is doubling damage from Falthus, you put cards on it like Sword of Feast and Famine that's giving it +2/+2, pro-black, pro-green, a bunch of other ridiculous abilities. This is one of my favorite swords, if not my favorite sword. You can also run cards like Darksteel Plate. Notice that we're only picking cards that have odd CMCs because we're really leaning toward Obosh as the companion for this deck, so we can only run odd CMC cards. Darksteel Plate, I think I mentioned this like once per video if I'm talking about Voltron. I love that card. Also, we can run fun cards like Blessing of Leeches, 3-cost enchant creature. You can play it at any time you could play an instant, so it's got flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, you're going to lose a life, and that's fine, because for 0, you can regenerate that enchanted creature. Obosh is probably the companion I'm most excited to try and combine with partner commanders. So let me know down in the comments if you're building it as well. I'd love to share deck lists. I've got one more companion I want to talk about before the video's over, and that is Zirda, the Dawnwaker. Zirda is a 3 mana 3/3 that has the deck building restriction of each permanent card in your starting deck having an activated ability. So we're going to have to look very carefully at whatever card that we're going to put into this deck, as well as our partners. But abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities are going to cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana to less than 1 mana, and for 1 mana tap, target creature can't block this turn. So I think combining these naturally with Brawlin, Sky Shark Raider, and Shabraz, the Sky Shark. These two partners aren't new to Commander Legends, but I did think the deck was worth noting because of the combo potential. Both of these commanders have activated abilities. Brawlin's target shark gains trample until end of turn, and then Shabraz's target human gains flying until end of turn. And they also have a lot of cycling, wheeling strategies that can be built into them, and we can make that happen with Zirda. You just have to make sure that the cards, the permanents, have activated abilities. Cycling is one of those, and Equip is another one. We'll talk about both. For cycling, I think we can totally lean into this strategy. Astral Drift is a 3-cost enchantment. Whenever you cycle it or cycle another card while it's on the battlefield, you can exile a creature. If you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of next end step, so you can use it to dodge some removal, you can use it to move a threat to the side while you start attacking through, you can use it to take advantage of ETBs, and it does have cycling as a permanent, which gives it that activated ability that Zirda is going to be checking for. Tectonic Reformation is another card that I found when I was researching this deck. 2 mana for an enchantment. Each land card in your hand has cycling 1 red, and it itself has cycling, which will be required to run it as a permanent in this deck. You can also run cards like Zenith Flare. This is a huge finisher. Could be a one-shot kill for just 4 mana in a cycling deck. Notice that this is an instant, so Zirda's deck building restriction doesn't apply here. It's only permanents that have to have activated abilities. So while I think cycling would be a fun way to lean into this, there's a lot of synergy there with Brawlin and Shabraz drawing cards, I think that the best way to lean into this build is combo. Basalt Monolith with Zirda on the battlefield leads to infinite mana pretty easily. Zirda is reducing the cost of Basalt Monolith's activated ability from 3 to 1 for untapping. You tap to add 3 colorless mana, pay 1, untap it, tap, add colorless mana, pay 1, untap it, and so forth. You've got your infinite mana there. You can also run cards in this deck called Walking Ballista, alright? It's got 2 activated abilities. The activated ability is reduced to put +1/+1 counters on it, and combined with the infinite mana from Basalt Monolith, you've got an infinite win con with Walking Ballista on the battlefield. That's not the last infinite combo that we can run. We can also run Paradise Mantle. It's got an equip cost, so that is the activated ability for the permanent, and it says equipped creature has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So if we run that in combination with Hate Flare says 3 mana, untap, Hate Flare deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. We're going to tap it with the Paradise Mantle. It's going to add 1 red to our mana pool. Hate Flare's activated ability is reduced by 2 because of Zirda, so it's 1 red mana, pay it, untap it, deals 5 damage to target player, and you've got infinite damage on your side of the battlefield that with no interaction you'll be able to win right then and there. Like I said, this trio doesn't require any of the cards from Commander Legends and already did exist. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I do think it's strong with Brawlin's ability. Whenever you're discarding cards, you're putting a +1/+1 counter on it, and it deals a damage to each opponent. And with Shabraz the Sky Shark, whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you gain 1 life. So that works really well with a cycling type deck, and Zirda with these two is going to open up a very fun combo heavy deck that just has a few deck building restrictions to pull it off. Those are the partners I wanted to talk about. Let's close the book. Thank you so much for watching. Big shout out to user NWiseGreen and White on Reddit. I did ask for their permission to use some of the information that they pulled together in their post, so big shout out, and I appreciate you doing that work. Let me know what companions you run in Commander, whether they're with a solo commander or a partner commander. Having 9, having 10 cards effectively in your opening hand is just so powerful. Like I said, if you liked the video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. Other than that, I'm tapped out. Happy brewing, and I'll catch you later.